everybody, I'm Jonathan Randall, and welcome to another episode of How You Like Me Now. I actually think this is episode 21, which is great because apparently a large percent of a podcast don't get past like the 4th episode, and an even larger don't get past the 20th. But we did it, everybody. We're in like the top percentage of people that actually follow through with podcasts, so that feels good. I hope y'all are enjoying it. I hope people are listening and able to enjoy it in the first place. Either way, I'm still doing it. I'm in a good mood. Spring is in the air. The weather's nice in New York. I hope everybody's been having a nice holiday, whether it's Ramadan or Easter or Passover. I celebrated Passover by making myself a brisket in the slow cooker, which was delicious. That's how I like to celebrate holidays, with food. I don't care if it's a Jewish holiday or not. Whatever holiday is coming up, if there's food involved, I'm celebrating by making it and loving it. I actually celebrated Easter too. I volunteer at the Elizabeth Street Garden. I'm a big supporter. Support the garden. We're trying to save the garden from being destroyed. And we had an Easter egg hunt for the kids in the community. It was a lot of fun. I was hiding Easter eggs, which was great. You know, it's such an amazing feeling to see like the look on a little kid's face when he's like trying to find an Easter egg, and then I'd put one right by him because I saw he was having difficulty, and when he found it, like their face would just light up, and it really felt good. Of course, sometimes the kids realized that I was the ones hiding the Easter eggs, and they would like start following me around, so it got a little difficult, and I had to pretend that like I wasn't doing it anymore, or like pass the eggs off. But anyways, had a really fun time. I was happy to, I don't really celebrate Easter, but happy to, participate in it and help make some people happy, which is always a good feeling. That's one of the reasons why I love doing comedy so much, because I love making people laugh and entertaining them. If you haven't checked out the Elizabeth Street Garden, you should definitely go over there. I'll be doing comedy shows again there this summer, in June, July, and August on the last Thursday of each month. I'm going to have a great lineup of comedians for each show. I'm really excited about it, and they have fantastic events there all the time. Check out their website, donate to the garden, come visit me. I'm there all the time, either helping out, doing some garden work, or just chilling in the back. Anyways, it's been, I guess, a weird week for a lot of people, especially for wrestling fans, because apparently there was like a match, and when they were showing like the intro video of the wrestler, they used a shot of Auschwitz when they were talking about how like the guy was a hardened criminal. I don't know how hardened he was that they sent him to Auschwitz in the past, but anyways, they got a lot of flack for it, of course. They thought it was trivializing Auschwitz, taking it lightly. It got removed, I guess, for the next broadcast, but plenty of people took screenshots of them. It was for this match. It was Dominic Mysterio, who apparently was fighting his dad, and I'm not really into wrestling, but apparently his dad was like a big wrestler, and he's like a bad guy wrestler or something, and this is what they showed to like show like what a badass he is before he, I guess, beat up his dad, which is pretty badass too, and a little concerning, but I don't know, wrestling is what wrestling is. But maybe don't use pictures of Auschwitz for wrestling or anything other than raising awareness about the Holocaust. For those of you that are idiots, the Holocaust is real. It did happen. 11 million people were murdered in the Holocaust, including 6 million Jews. But anyways, I'm not going to talk a lot about the Holocaust. Wrestling, I wish they were doing it to raise awareness, but they weren't. They were just doing it to make him look like a badass. But I got to be honest, there isn't really that many scary places as scary as Auschwitz is terrifying. I was actually there myself many years ago when I went on the March to the Living. And it was, so sad to see it. It's a little crazy how it's like a museum now. It's become a tourist attraction. I remember when I went, they had like a gift shop, and they were selling Snickers bars. And I'm like, this is no time for like a Snicker bar at Auschwitz, Like, that's not the place where it should be like, oh, time for Snickers, everybody. Something about these gas chambers and hearing about all these people murdered really got me in the mood for some caramel chocolate and nuts. Anyways, other people I want to talk about are people who stand in crosswalks. What is wrong with you people? Maybe this is just like a New York thing where there are a lot of tourists and they don't know where they're going, and they'll stop like directly in the crosswalk, but it's the most frustrating thing. Like, have some awareness of where you are. Have some consideration for other people, which is a thing I'm really big in, and I think is like a dying art, consideration for others. But just the other day, I was like trying to cross the street, and there was this group of like 6 huge guys just standing in the crosswalk. And I was like, what are you guys doing? Are you just hanging out in the crosswalk, blocking people? Do you not want people to cross to this side of the street for some reason? And they're like, oh yeah, and they like walked away. And I'm just like, I can't believe anybody like still does this in this age. Like, it's so clearly marked as the crosswalk. It has like the area where it's kind of like a little graded, I guess, so like blind people know not to cross there. And these people could see, and they're just standing there like a bunch of idiots. So don't be like those people. Oh man, I got a lot of people I'm upset about this week. Other people are door slammers. I don't know why, but I feel like people under 30 have no idea how to close a door. They know how to slam a door, but they don't know how to close a door quietly. It's like every time they come or go, they want everyone around them to know they're like leaving the house. I don't know what it is about people under 30 where it's like they're having a temper tantrum every time they go somewhere where they gotta slam the door. Again, this is another thing, consideration for others. You could slam the door close nicely. You could close the door quietly. You don't have to slam it so it makes a huge noise. I mean, I feel like maybe people just wanna like close the door as quickly as possible, so they just, but keep your hand on the door until you close it all the way. It's really not a difficult thing or a difficult concept, but I feel like people under 30, they really don't know how to close the door without slamming it, and it just pisses me off and annoys me so much. There are so many people in my building that do that. I actually yelled at a guy yesterday. First of all, he was walking up the stairs and he was really like stomping up the stairs, and I'm like, whoa, dude, like fee fi fo fum, what the hell? Are you like getting ready to play the Giant in a Jack and the Beanstalk play or something? Like, why do you have to stomp your feet so much? And then he went and closed the door and he slammed it so hard, and I'm just like, hey, don't slam your door, fucker, is what I yelled at him. And I'm pretty sure he's still gonna slam in the future. I know my neighbors do that all the time. I wanted to like put these little like clear bubble things like in their door so like it wouldn't make so much noise, but I'm like, how do you go about doing that? Especially because I'm always yelling at them because they're so loud and annoying. And they slam the door too. They don't know how to close it nicely. And yes, they are under 30. So people under 30, if you're listening to this podcast, first of all, thank you. I appreciate it. Close the door nicely. It's very easy. Just keep your hand on the door until it closes. Like, you don't have to be slamming the door so hard. If you have a lot of angst or you're angry or upset, find another way to take it out, and not on these poor doors, all right? Doors don't need to be slammed. Stop slamming the doors. I guess I'm gonna start a movement now, like people against door slamming, don't slam doors. Anyways, it's something that really frustrates me, bothers me. It's crazy, and I notice so many people, young people do it. And I've talked to other people and they're like, yes, we have noticed and we have the same problem with our neighbors that are young, and they just like continuously slam the door like that's the only way to close it. Like, I have to close this door as hard as possible or else it's not gonna shut. No, the door will shut, all right? Just close it nicely and quietly. It's very easy, all right? If you need to email me or reach out to me on social media, I will give you a personal tutorial about how not to slam a door when you close it. Dating, I'm still doing it. I haven't met my love since the last time I recorded a podcast, but God knows I'm trying. I have had an interaction with a woman, very inconsiderate. You know, one of these things that makes me want to like delete my dating apps because like some of these women, the way they act is just ridiculous. I met this girl. She seemed very eager to go out with me. In fact, she was the one that kind of initiated a date and was like, hey, let's go out, let's get a drink. And I was like, okay. And I was like, hey, are you free this day? And she's like, I'm not. How about this day at this time? And I was like, okay, yeah, sure, that works for me. I'm free. So it was like a week away or something. It was her birthday. So I guess that's why she wasn't available like sooner. Anyways, didn't matter. I was like, okay, we'll go when we go out. And then I get a message from her saying, hey, is there any way you'd be able to switch to the next day? And I'm put out. Like, it already bothers me. She was the one that suggested this day. And I just didn't like it. I was just like, you know what? No, I'm not available. Okay. Even though the truth was I was available, but I didn't care for her like wanting to switch it when like we were going out when she wanted to go out in the first place. So I was like, no, I'm sorry. I'm not available. So I was expecting her to be like, okay, well, something came up. I'm not gonna be able to make it, whatever. I don't hear from her. It's the day of the date. I don't have high hopes, But I'm a nice person, and I'm not just gonna like not show up in case she did. So I write her and say, "Hey, are we on tonight?" And she's like, "Oh, my best friend just surprised me and wants to take me out for dinner tonight. I'm trying to figure out if we can meet up later." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, you already tried to change the date with me. So what do you mean like your best friend surprised you? Like now it just seems like you're lying." So anyways, we had like a couple jokes based on her profile, so I like made a joke about it. She was saying how she like a deal breaker for her is liking DC over Marvel. And, you know, of course, I made some jokes about that. I'm a huge comic book nerd. And so when she said that, I said, you know, changing plans is so DC. Who's your friend? James Gunn. Hilarious joke, by the way. James Gunn is taking over the DC Cinematic Universe. He's changing the DCEU to just the DCU, getting rid of Henry Cavill, getting rid of Gal Gadot, just changing, you know, all the actors and kind of like rebooting the whole thing. So, great joke. I don't even hear from this girl again saying, "No, yeah, I'm sorry. I don't think I'm going to make it, or it's going to be late, or whatever." And then so I don't really care. Like, I just do my own thing. And then at like 11 o'clock that night, I get a message from her being like, "I'm so sorry. Please forgive me." Like, why would I forgive you? Like, it would have been so easy for you to just be like, "Hey, man, I'm not going to be able to make it tonight. Maybe we go out some other time." First of all, she should have done that like when she texted me about rescheduling, but she could have done that like just that day even. Like, that's just a decent human being. Once again, having consideration for others. Oh, wow, this is really a theme of today's podcast. And it's something that I really care about in my life. I feel like people rarely have consideration for others. They're so like thinking about themselves. They only care about themselves, and they don't care about how anything like affects other people. And I think it's absolutely horrible. And it's like an art, consideration for others, a dying art, unfortunately. Okay. Well, now that we got through having consideration for others, if you can't make a date, all you have to do is say, "Hey, I'm not going to make it. I'm sorry." Don't like keep somebody hanging. That's just like a shitty thing to do. We talked about not slamming doors. We talked about not standing in the crosswalk. And now we're going to talk about other things you shouldn't do, but not just anyone. We're talking about Israel. First of all, there was a violence over the weekend. That's very sad. It's very unfortunate. An Italian tourist was killed. I believe 2 daughters were killed. The mother was in critical condition. I believe that she just passed away today. They were killed by, you know, Israelis will call them terrorists. Palestinians will call them freedom fighters. It's very sad. You know, of course, I am against, you know, violence, especially against civilians. I think it's horrible. But, you know, also a 15-year-old Palestinian was killed by Israeli forces. So I think all these deaths are really bad. But I also just want to talk about, like, the difference, okay? So individuals that couldn't take it anymore, the occupation, the oppression that they have faced at the hands of Israel, seeing their families being abused, knowing people that were killed by the forces, they snap and they do something terrible and horrible, and they, you know, killed 4 people. Absolutely atrocious. Different people killed these people. Horrible, disgusting. Individuals. Meanwhile, the 15-year-old was killed by Israeli forces that are backed by a government and a whole state. And if you can't understand the difference between being killed by like a single person who is resisting oppression over so many years and the military force of a whole country, then I feel like you have some serious issues and you need to question both your critical thinking and yourself as a human being. There is a huge difference. Of course, all death is horrible. All these murders really suck. But you got to think there's a difference between one person killing somebody and forces, an army killing people backed by the government. Huge difference. And that's just like the way it is. And if you can't see that, well, then you need glasses more than I do. I also want to talk about Israeli settlers. You know, God knows I can't stand them. I think they're some of the worst people. You know, they're the real terrorists. Israelis and like other people are so quick to label Palestinians terrorists, but the real terrorists are these Israeli settlers. And there was a huge march today, going in the West Bank to one of an illegal outpost called Evyatar. I think I'm saying that right. I don't know. Evyatar. Anyways, thousands of extremist Israelis, they marched to this illegal outpost. And I want to make it clear, this outpost isn't only illegal under international law, it's illegal under Israeli law. Like, Israel found that this is an illegal outpost and they shut it down and they evacuated it, and thousands of people, though, marched to it. They're trying to get it back open. This new extremist government probably will, and members of the 1,000 people, the 1,000 fanatical extremist Israeli settlers that were marching were members of the government. There were, I think, let's see, I have it written down. There were 7 ministers and 20 members of the Knesset, including hate mongers Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, that were, participating in this march. I don't really understand how, when tensions are so high right now with what happened at Al-Aqsa, with, people getting killed on both sides, that they think this is a great opportunity to march through the West Bank to a settlement that was been evicted, that's on Palestinian land. But of course, these deranged Israeli settlers, they don't care. People want to blame Palestinians for not being peace, but this is reasons why there isn't peace, because this is Palestinian land and these outposts shouldn't exist. That's why they don't exist. But these deranged Israeli settlers, they don't care, and they're going to march anyways, and they're going to, try to reopen it, which is absolutely horrible. It's been evacuated numerous times, but they're still going there, and guess what? They're doing so under the protection of the Israeli military. Of course, Palestinians were protesting, and they were met with rubber bullets and tear gas. At least 115 Palestinians suffered from gas inhalation, and at least 2 were injured from rubber bullets, including journalists, by the way. So much for freedom of press. And they also, because of this huge march that they were going to, this illegal outpost, they blocked the roads, further restricting freedom of movement for Palestinians, which is already a huge issue. And guess what, everybody? The march also included bouncy houses. Yes, like inflatable bouncy houses that kids could jump in, because stealing Palestinian land should be fun even for kids. I mean, what the hell? They're marching to an illegal settlement on Palestinian land when tensions are high, and they're like, hey, let's blow up some bouncy houses so our kids could jump around and have fun. I mean, what is wrong with these people? It is absolutely insane. Visits to this illegal outposts have been officially banned by the military since the evacuation. But hey, tensions aren't high right now enough during the holidays, so I think it's, a good time for them to go, of course, accompanied by the military who's protecting them, which is weird because if Palestinians go where they're not supposed to go, we all knows what happens to them. But when Israeli settlers go where they're not supposed to go, they have Israeli military forces supporting them and backing them up, which is absolutely disgusting. In fact, one of the times where they try to rebuild this illegal outpost, the military was helping the settlers do that, even though they had already been ordered to evacuate and they weren't supposed to be there. But, hey, when you're being protected by an army doing something that is illegal and you're not supposed to do, and the Palestinian people, when they go somewhere or do something they're not supposed to do, are pretty much being shot or beat by the Israeli army, I don't know. Kind of, to me, feels like a system of discrimination based solely on one person being Palestinian and the other people being Israeli, which is wrong, and there's a name for it, which plenty of people have called Israel already. It's crazy, raiding Al-Aqsa wasn't enough during Ramadan. They also want to provoke Palestinians by taking more Palestinian land. Sometimes I wonder if Israel wants Palestinians to resist. They want them to fight back so they could keep painting them as terrorists and making them seem like the bad guy, when it's pretty clear to me who are the aggressors and who are the bad guys and who are continually trying to steal Palestinian land and who are in the way of peace and who are trying to ethnically cleanse Palestinians from the land totally. These people, they feel so powerless by the occupation, by the constant oppression that they feel from Israel. And I feel like people just totally don't give that any consideration with what they do when they're trying to fight back, when they're trying to resist, their family and friends being displaced, seeing their children being murdered. What are they supposed to do? Just bend over and take it from Israelis? Because that's crazy. That's insane. And it's far past time that the West stopped supporting, Israel's ethnic cleansing, the Palestinians of their, violating fundamental human rights. It has to absolutely stop. It's gone on too far. What I fear, a lot of people ask me, what do I think is going to happen with Israel and Palestine? And, what I think is going to happen is that, some of these freedom fighters, resistance, whatever you want to call them, some of these groups that are fighting against the Israeli occupation, they're going to get their hands on some sort of, weapon of mass destruction. And Israel is going to go and they're going to want to stop them. And what this is the story that Israel always tells. They're trying to stop a terrorist attack. They're trying to stop something bad, and that's why they're killing journalists or killing children or just doing all these things, raiding Al-Aqsa, destroying buildings, the AP building or whatever, because they have information. So anyways, they're going to get this information. They're going to go. They're going to try to stop this attack, and in doing so, they're going to set off this weapon of mass destruction in Palestinian territory, whether it's in Gaza or the West Bank, and it's going to blow up and kill thousands and thousands of people. And then I believe that the whole world is going to turn on the Jewish people because of Israel's actions. And it's terrifying and it's scary. And I really hope it doesn't happen. And I feel like now more than ever, America needs to take a stand and they need to stop offering military aid to Israel. Period. I want to thank everybody who's been supporting me online, on Instagram. I recently started posting a lot more of my Palestinian content on Instagram. I was typically just posting it on TikTok, trying to keep it separate. I am a comedian. I want to be known as being a comedian. I also am happy, to fight for Palestinian human rights, but my focus is a comedian, so I was like, some of this Palestine-Israel stuff can get heavy, but I decided that it is part of who I am. It is important to me to try to raise awareness and make a difference. So I started posting, started getting a lot more followers and support. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Please also check out and support my comedy. It's means a lot to me. I'm very passionate about it and I love to entertain. And I know a lot of Palestinian people go through a lot of hard times and hopefully I could bring some laughter into your world that'll, ease the pain of the occupation a little much. I mean, I'm definitely giving myself too credit because the occupation is just horrible, so I won't do that, but at least make you smile and make you realize that not all Jewish people are against you. If you're not following me on social media, please do at Jonathan Randall across all platforms. If you're not subscribing to my YouTube channel, get on that. Thanks a lot, everybody, for tuning in. I'm Jonathan Randall. How you like me now?